Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, where you can sign up to be a member of the Shannons Club, your local Holden certified service centre, Pace Farm the enjoyable egg, and Heron Forbes Machinery House, where you can buy online.
G'day, I'm Fletch and welcome to today's show. You're about to see something a little unusual. It's a pre-World War II vintage car show. And you're probably thinking at this point, what are we going to see? Well, let's go find out, shall we? In this week's Classic Restos, On the Road. Today I have travelled to Sutherland, just south of Sydney in New South Wales. As you know, history to date of Classic Restos has covered a lot of different eras of motor vehicles. Today's spotlight emphasis is pre-World War II. And to tell us more, here's the event organiser and all-round good guy, Ken Warburton. In all of his exuberance, this here is the man that we blame. How are you, Ken?
I'm damn good, Fletch. What about you?
Wonderful, wonderful. This show that you've organised stands for a great cause with Sylvanvale. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Sylvanvale is very close to my heart, Fletch, because 75 years ago, my mother and father were the foundation members of Sylvanvale. I had a sister that was disabled. And of course, 75 years ago, people didn't want to know about disabled people. So my mum and dad thought, well, we've got to get something started here. So that's what they did. They started with a group of 5 lots of parents, and it's gone from that 75 years ago, and now they turn over $75 million a year. And also, they look after 750 people, and they've got 28 group homes throughout Sydney and the Blue Mountains.
And as you said earlier too, it helps these people to reach their potential.
That's exactly right. There's not enough people out there to help people that are disabled. And I want to do that because it makes me feel good. Yes. It does make me feel good. Yeah. And I'd hate to go through life not giving.
I know, I do know that feeling, and I'm exactly on that same page with you. I think a lot of people who've been watching this episode feel the same way. It's beautiful to be able to give. Now, the proceeds of today are specifically buying what for Sylvanvale?
Okay, well, Sylvanvale have just built a special disability building up at Bangor for 8 clients. Now, when the clients move into this building, they're going to need furniture to put around them, like beds and lounges and that. So all the proceeds today will be going towards those furnishings for those disabled people in their new premises.
And this is a big thing with charities today. We must know that every cent gets to the cause, and I'm big on that.
Well, Fletch, let me tell you something, mate. I don't get a zack out of this, and I don't want any money out of it.
It's from the heart, and that's what all charities should be.
That's right.
From here.
That's right.
You get your income in other ways, charities you do on the side, and that's every proceed off to there. Yeah. Speaking of which, it should be a good turnout for proceeds, because talk about $1 million, more than that sitting in the car park here. The response, Ken, has been absolutely overwhelming. I'm stunned with the not only the different brands of vehicles, but the quality of these cars is outstanding, mate.
Well, to be quite honest with you, Fletch, I'm even impressed. And it takes me a lot to get impressed.
Well, I don't know. He gets impressed every morning. Look how he wakes up and gets dressed. Look at him. He looks like $1 million, Ken.
I don't know about that.
Ex-Qantas, air steward, hey? Got to love that. How many years with Qantas?
Oh, only 34 years.
Yeah, trolley dolly.
It's an international trolley dolly.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah, and then today I've got probably 30 of my ex-colleagues that I work with that have volunteered for today, which is wonderful.
X747 boy?
All 747s, mate. No problems. There's only one aircraft, mate. It's the Jumbo 747.
Yeah. Gives me goosebumps.
That's right.
Love the industry, love what you people stand for. And of course, slightly digressing, loving what you stand for here today. Hundreds of people turning up here at Sutherland, New South Wales for this event. Again, the quality of vehicles, people are just so willing to give generously for Sylvanvale. And of course, what a bonus, turn up in their cars.
And guess what, Fletch?
What's that?
Look at the sunshine.
Yeah, I wouldn't want...
How blessed are we with the sunshine?
I don't want the heater any hotter than that.
No, but what I mean to say is...
I like an overcast day, Ken.
Well, I tell you what, I haven't looked at the weather forecast for a month. I looked at it last night before I went to bed. 10-day forecast. The only day it had a sunshine on it was today. And I thought all my dreams had come true.
Well, Ken, keep up your fantastic work, mate. It's an absolute privilege and a pleasure to be here today to showcase some of this event on Classic Restos. Thanks, Ken.
Fletch, you're a champion, and thank you for supporting us, mate.
That's all right.
I appreciate it.
That's okay, mate. Not a problem.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, buddy.
Good, mate. Beautiful.
When I was a kid, I loved cars. Still do. The 57 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham was the most advanced car in the world. Cost more than a Rolls. Hand-built with a stainless steel roof, cruise control, electric seats, and would you believe, air suspension. American iron. It's a passion Shannons understand. That's why they insure my daily drive, the caddy, my bike, even the house.
Call Shannons on 13 46 46. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
When it comes to cars, there are some brands that will remain with us forever, no matter what. The Holden was always Australia's own car, held high in the hearts of many. Those lines, that chrome, the stories around them, and the people that owned them. From the classic through to the final, you can still trust in genuine Holden and AC Delco parts, available through the Holden Certified Service Network. Have a look for your nearest Holden Certified Service Centre at holden.com.au, and let's keep supporting Australia's own. If this doesn't take you back, nothing will. A 1952 AEC bus. How are you, Craig?
Good, yourself, Fletch?
Good, mate, good. Now, we've made a bit of an exception to the rule here. It's a post-war bus. It's not pre-World War II, but hey, we've got to cut this some slack, I believe.
Well, apparently. I do have a pre-war bus, but unfortunately it's trapped in the shed. And we couldn't get it out for today, so we brought this instead.
This is emotional. If this sort of stuff doesn't put a tear in your eye, nothing will. For those that you can remember, these ran into the 70s, so we can remember these as kids. They were old then.
Yes. Yeah, they ran right up until 1976. The 5th of December 1976, actually. This bus here was the last bus, one of the last two buses that ran on the last day. And it was bought straight from the government and it's been preserved ever since.
What a fantastic run these old girls, 1952 through to 1976. Now, over that time, there's so many questions you could ask here. They hung in there for that period of time. They served well, didn't they?
They did, for what they were. I mean, everything that was built back then in the Pommy days were over-engineered, overbuilt, over everything.
Plenty of iron.
Oh, they're a low revving, low compression engine. They just lug away all day. You can't kill them.
How many miles would it have done, do you think?
I reckon it's probably done 2 trips to the moon and back, maybe more. It's hard to say, but yeah, every day they were on the road, every day running the streets of Sydney, providing to the community. Yeah, they're just tough old girls. I mean, this bus was overhauled in 1972, I think, I believe. Mechanically, it hasn't been touched since.
What have you done to it?
Okay, so I completely stripped it down to a frame, repaired all the rust, repanelled it, every nut and bolt. It was a skeleton, and yeah, I put 8.5 years into it. Mechanically, I haven't touched the motor, I've just had the injector pump done up.
Tell us about the engine, like the size of it.
It's a 9.6 litre AEC engine with a Wilson pre-select.
That'd be torquey.
It's about 120 horsepower, but a lot of torque.
The emotional side kicks in here with me. We look inside the bus and we think of the hundreds of thousands of people over the life of the bus that would have ridden on this bus. The stories, if the walls and the seats could talk. Parents with children on school holidays, commuters, people going to work every day, people in the early years that couldn't afford a motor car and they used to use a bus every day. Or a tram or a train. We're back into this era. And the world changed so much too from 1952 to 1976, but one thing remains though, what a golden era that this bus worked in. I mean, what a time.
Well, when you get inside and have a look, you'll notice how short people were back then. Like the roofs are very, the whole bus they look big, but when you get inside them, they're actually quite small. I've got a hunch to get in it. But yeah, it's just amazing how times have changed and how people were patient back then. I mean, they only had a top speed of 32 mile an hour, which is 54 kilometres. People weren't in a rush back then. You know, a day out in a bus was like us going to the movies, or it was a joy and a pleasure. You know,
Less commercial stresses and an easier going time. You got there when you got there.
Correct. You got there when you got there. There was no rush. There was no, it was just a more laid-back generation, I think.
Craig, thank you for bringing the bus along. Although it's a 1952 model, it's fantastic, mate. I love it. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, Fletch. Take care.
Good on you, mate. And moving on through, Kenny Warburton's pre-World War II show as we do. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, good. Fletch, yourself?
Good, mate, good. What's the story here? In 1924, it's a Graham Brothers car. What can you tell us about it?
Well, look, Graham Brothers did have trucks and buses and all that years ago, but it's got all Dodge running gear. It's got Dodge plate on it. It's got Graham Brothers hubcap on it. But yeah, no one can really tell me what it is.
It's an interesting affiliation with Dodge.
Yes, exactly, mate. Yeah, because they did use their gear, you know.
What an incredible survivor car. Telltale here, the original Rego label of 1959 sitting up there on the glass. Where did you find it?
In a little place, Sutton Forest, down in the Southern Highlands, mate. Yeah, so it's a bloke just come up to me and said, I got one of these at home when I pulled up in my old vintage car. And I said, I'll be back to see you.
So Paul, you haven't had it upholstered yet?
No. I like it the way it is, with the rats.
Those seats puts a bit of spring in your step, doesn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Add something else.
I think this is incredible. Because this car is not restored, it's how you found it from brand new, just deteriorating slowly over all those decades to how we see it today, with really not a lot done, apart from, I guess, general servicing, obviously, in the day. It's just amazing how it's standing up. Someone's had a go at the running boards over the years, put a bit of timber board down there.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, well, you have a good close look, mate. Got a few white ants in it, but yeah, no.
Imagine saying that today. Yeah. Oh, how's your new car? Oh, I got some white ants in it last month.
Yes, but that's all time. That's what happens over years.
And as found as well, we look at the dashboard and it's just been pulled out of the shed, Paul, hasn't it?
That's it, mate. Yeah, I've got some photos there. I'll show you a photo. You can take a picture of it. Still sitting in the shed, mate. Yeah, when we open the doors up to have a look at it. So.
That's amazing. See, that's what these shows are all about. It's a big Pandora's box. You don't know what you're going to find. I love it. It's a real credit to you. And I think for this to turn up, obviously it came up on a trailer, Paul.
Oh, please. Yeah. Yeah, no, we trailered it up, mate, and then just drove her on the car park across here, mate.
Sometimes the trailer queens get a hard time, but we've got to make exceptions.
That's it, mate. Absolutely.
Good on you, Paul. Keep up the great work, mate.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Fletch.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannons Home and Contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannons.
Shannons Insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
They may not be making the classic Holden anymore, but the legacy lives on. You can still have a Holden certified service using genuine Holden and AC Delco quality parts at over 180 centres across Australia. Go to holden.com.au to find your nearest centre. Book your Holden in, maintain the pride. And if you own classics such as these, they just have to be insured by the best. Why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646. And keep in mind too that the Shannons Club awaits you with their own in-house productions such as Shannons Club TV, Legends of Motorsport, Driven, End of an Era. You can catch Classic Restos there as well, along with a host of other really cool automotive stuff, down as Australia's largest automotive online hub. For more information, visit shannons.com.au. And from one survivor car through to another, what is there not to love about this delightful 1939 Packard? How are you, Reese?
I'm very well, Fletch. How are you?
Fantastic. This is really escaping me again. Finding these cars, nothing's been done to them. We're looking at how they were found. What can you tell us about this?
All right, I found it out of a barn in Murray Bridge in South Australia where it had been slumbering for about 10 years. The lady I bought it from dug it out of a barn in the Dandenongs where it had slumbered for about 20 years. So this is easily its first show in 30 years.
1939 Packard. Have a go at this. Up under the hood lurks 8 cylinders, straight 8, and a mid-price car for the time, Reese.
Absolutely. At the time, the rest of the Packard lineup was selling in excess of $2,000 and were cars exclusively for the very, very wealthy, the people who'd made it, who wanted to say it very quietly. But during the Great Depression, Packard, like all motor manufacturers, had to do something to keep themselves afloat, and they came out with the 120, which is the car behind us here, which was their first car under $1,000. It was $950 at about the time when you could buy a Ford for about $350. So it was still something for those who were doing quite well for themselves at the time.
Just looking at that interior, just imagine that brand new. Just imagine that back in 1939. The smell of the materials inside. Little things, features on the dashboard like an oil pressure gauge. Even cars today are struggling to get an oil pressure gauge. There were some advancements in these cars that were really ahead of their time. Of course, we've got a huge rear space in the interior and the armrests covered there with the velour. You've got some holes in the hood lining. What's going on there, Reese?
Oh, we had a rat that decided to make home inside the car after I tucked it into the shed after last year's show season.
I don't blame him.
No, absolutely. It's a comfy place to be.
Where do you live? One rat says to the other, where do you live? I've got the Packard. Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. I bet he was comfortable.
Everything about this car is just so original. The die-cast work around on the side of the hood cowl, the grille itself, the die casting down the centre of the hood in front through to the little embellishment there on the top of the or above the radiator area. It's just beautiful. Standard hubcaps, they're in place. The mirrors are in place. The running boards as well, Reese.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it as original as we possibly can. They're only original once.
Okay, now I mentioned about the straight 8 up front. Tell us more about that.
That's right. It's 282 cubic inches, side valve straight 8. They make about 120 horsepower along with a mountain of torque that you couldn't possibly measure. You just pick a gear and pull away on any grade at any.
Take off in top gear.
Oh, absolutely. And it just idles along like an absolute Swiss watch. They reckon with the Packard 8-cylinder, if you stand a nickel, the American coin, on its edge on top of the engine, it will not fall over.
There you go. See, and the rear gears as well, 3.9s or a 410 rear, whatever they had, taking off in top gear, stacks of torque. 1939, interesting year because they would have been head-to-head with the Buick of the same time.
Yes, absolutely. The Buick was perhaps a slightly more stylish car, but and nowhere near the build quality that Packard managed.
Some of the most, luxurious and most embellished vehicles I've ever seen have been in the United States, have been Packards. And some of the cars that they built through the 20s, 30s and 40s were just outstanding, Reese.
Absolutely. Whilst some of the budget end manufacturers decided to just reduce their prices consistently to keep up through the Great Depression, there will always be people that have money. Companies like Packard, Peerless, Pierce, Arrow built some of the most flamboyant cars of the time, including one that in its day cost $20,000.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Absolutely. They had to do whatever they could to convince those wealthy people to spend their money.
And the vehicle manufacturers didn't go broke back then because they built a bad product.
No, absolutely not. These are some of the finest motor cars made at the time. It was purely just a really difficult economic time. Packard's life was extended by more than 10 years just due to the war effort.
A high ticket price for a motor car versus the volumes that they sold, it just didn't end well for them, did it?
No, it definitely didn't.
Reece, thank you so much, mate. Pleasure catching up with you. One of these cars like this, I just can't walk past it. I've got to find out. I've got to know about where it came from and just something about the history. This is just the real deal. Thanks very much, mate.
You're most welcome, Fletch. Glad to share it with you.
It's time now for John this afternoon. How are you?
Good, Fletch.
You're looking very dapper there.
Thank you, Fletch.
It's a man of stance. It's a man that dresses to match his car. And what a car this is, a 1935 Studebaker. Outstanding car.
Yes, it is. It's a Commander 8. I've had it since 1972, been on the road since 1986, and it's a good, reliable car.
So it's out of warranty?
It ran out last year.
I wouldn't imagine there's too many of these in the country, John.
This is a one-off body built in Brisbane by a Brisbane bodybuilder.
History of the car, do you know who had it?
Gentleman by the name of John Brobrib, and he raced it in trials and races and so on. Had the fastest time of the day on a drag strip at 98 miles an hour, and he won a high-speed reliability run.
Interesting cubic capacity too, being 250 cubes, 4.1 litres up front.
Yes, same capacity as a six-cylinder Falcon.
Yeah.
But bearing crankshaft, but
it's not a 4.1 crossflow. It's not what you're thinking.
No, it's side valve. It's about 6.5 to 1 compression, which is high for a side valve.
Well, we're talking 1935. We're talking all these cars are very torquey. Bit of a combination with their long-stroke engines, big cubes up front, the gearing in the rear as well. It made them really get up off the line, and they did a remarkable job for the time, didn't they?
Good on hills.
Yeah.
You can take your foot off and let the revs drop off. Yep. Put your foot down and pull back to where it was.
There you go. We look around this car. Let's go on the interior first. That Art Deco dashboard, the styling of those gauges, the design of the dash, and over on the passenger side, a radio for 1935. Tell us about that, John.
My father bought a 1929 Dodge. He bought the car new. When radios came out, about 1932, he put a radio in it, which is correct for this car. Very correct.
The interior is just so exuberant. The leatherwork, again the styling, the shape of the doors, a very almost a British-inspired car from the two-door cars, the little sports cars. But obviously, Studebaker, an American car, much bigger. But a lot of those sporty styling designs seem to be in this vehicle.
I imagine that the owner said, "I want a car with an Auburn-style body." Yep. But I want British cut-down doors on it.
The restoration of the vehicle, John, how did you go with that?
It took 14 years. I bought it in 1972, got it in the road in 1986. I was fortunate enough to get a lot of new parts for it because there's still Studebaker parts around.
Well, you've certainly done a fantastic job. It's not the easiest car on the planet to restore, and you've done that, although a long time ago, but you've done a superb job.
But that's good, isn't it? Like, you've got something different. Yeah. And this has had 2 restorations. We gave it a mini restoration 15 years ago, which we painted it in 2-pack paint, and we reupholstered it in leather because we did vinyl first, and we put a canvas hood on it.
Yeah. Now, you've done a fantastic job, and you've certainly cornered the market with this model too, in case there's a rush on them.
Yes, well, there's no more. That's it.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful 1935 Studebaker with us on this episode of Classic Restos. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, just some of the pre-World War II vintage car show and some post-war vehicles put on by Ken Warburton, along with a stack of great help, with all proceeds off to Sylvanvale. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next week, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching.
You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, where you can sign up to be a member of the Shannons Club, your local Holden certified service centre, Pace Farm the enjoyable egg, and Heron Forbes Machinery House, where you can buy online.